Hi, I'm Kurbanov.
And I'm Talia Meade, and we're journalism students at the University of King's College in Halifax, Nova Scotia. But with no classes on campus this year, we're all doing the work from home thing.
Reporting in COVID times means a lot of Zoom interviews, and not so many close-ups. And like reporters around the world, we're learning how to make it work.
This is our first show for 2021. And coming up, how to cope with isolation, the end of an era for Nova Scotia crystal, and the secret recipe for making vinyl records.
But first, big changes are coming to the Halifax Seaport Market. It's moving outdoors, out of the space they called home for 10 years. And as Talia found out, at least one tenant sees it as good news.
Saturday morning, and business is slow at this cheese booth stand at the Seaport Market. It's been like this since the pandemic started.
Yeah, it was terrible. But they lowered the booth fees. We pay about half of what we normally used to pay.
Since COVID-19, distancing rules have limited shoppers and cut the number of vendors, which all adds up to too many problems for a market already struggling financially. Last week, the Halifax Port Authority announced that this parking lot and the building behind it will become the new location just down the street from the market's home for the last 10 years. When the market first opened, its goal was to thrive 7 days a week, but it's never really managed much more than a busy Saturday.
So one of the things that we're also doing right now is working with those vendors who have stalls, like permanent tenant spaces on the inside of the building. See if we can move them to an outside-facing space as well, serve the public 7 days a week, and still capture the inside crowd.
At its busiest, the market had 250 vendors, and now it's operating at a reduced capacity. That Dutchman's Cheese Farm have been a fixture at the Seaport Market since it first opened in 2010 and is ready for the change.
I'm actually quite excited about that tent idea. I think that might give much better market feel. This here is slowly dying. The other place, parking is closer. And the inside, I guess they tell me, is a little more comfortable. This is kind of industrial. Never really picked up an atmosphere.
You can find the outdoor market operating at its new location sometime mid-March.
Been doing this for 40 years. No, we'll be there.
For The Signal, I'm Talia Meade. Meanwhile, another waterfront institution is shutting down for good. Nova Scotia Crystal will close at the end of next month. As Kheira Morellon reports, losing business from tourists and collectors was only part of the problem.
For years, Nova Scotian Crystal has been a staple of the Halifax waterfront, but earlier this month they announced they would have to close. Due to the current health regulation, production had to be cut by 50%, not allowing for a sustainable business. Brian Tabay was in the first group of Irish craftsmen to work here. Today, the future of his career is uncertain, and he has to say goodbye to the job he loves.
Working on the waterfront over the years, we've seen, we always have our bay door open, and we people that come and go, and we've seen the same people year after year. Disbelief, there must be a way, but at the same time, I remember standing in the factory there with everybody else when Anne told us, and everybody had an understanding, and we could see something was coming because of the times we're in. And
like many businesses, Nova Scotian Crystal had many ups and downs, but it was uniquely susceptible to COVID. Not just because of lost business from tourism and events. One big problem was the very nature of the glass-making craft.
So we'd have two teams in there. One team is 3 people on it, and the other has 5. And the 5 are making stemware, and the other 2 are making tumblers, whiskey glasses, or some of the heavier pieces, the big bowls and vases. So let's just say, for instance, the tumbler team, 2 of those people have to use, we have a set of 9 blowing irons, and the blowing irons are what we reach in and get the molten crystal out and shape. But the 2 members of the team share those irons. So, like I was saying to somebody earlier, it's like if you're drinking through a straw, some water or juice or something like that, would you expect it, given the times we're living in, the person next to you to use the same straw? You wouldn't, and it's very hard to split our teams up so the two teams couldn't work at the same time because it is a small space that we work in. So now there's an early team, an early shift and a later shift. And that made things even more awkward because you can't change up if you're using different pieces or making different pieces.
Tabay will be out of work at the end of February. He doesn't know what will come next for him. For now, he and his coworkers are busy filling orders from people looking for a few last pieces before the fires goes out for good. For The Signal, I'm Kheira Morellon.
Varsity and professional athletes are feeling the stress of canceled games and lost competition. Pickup games and scrimmages are one way to stay in shape for when things get back to normal, and Ilyas went to one of them.
Some of the city's best players show up 4 times a week to play competitive basketball.
I wanted to organize this run so I can have a place for guys to play since of COVID. Not too many gyms are open.
Daniel Judd organizes the scrimmages. He charges just enough to pay for the gym. It's an invitation only for pro, current, and former university players.
Guys that are playing pro and back home don't have a place to play. Guys, same with college guys, they don't have, their season got ended, so a place for them to play.
With Judd's help, players are able to connect, have fun, compete, and stay in shape.
Places like that are huge for me because I can find a place to play actual basketball as opposed to trying my best to simulate game situations by myself in the gym.
Ben Miller played with Acadian. Last year he played pro in Armenia. Then he signed a pro contract in Ireland but didn't play because of COVID-19.
Basically, for playing basketball, the only way to train for basketball is to play it really. So getting out here, going up and down, just honing your skills against other players who are trying to do the same. There's nothing like it. Coming to Halifax has been great for gym time like this, as well as just getting in the gym myself too.
While COVID-19 is unpredictable, Judd continues to do as much as he can to give players a chance to play.
You guys benefit from this run so they have a place to play, stay in shape, since a lot of things are closed right now. It's good for your mental stress, mental health, get guys playing, competing.
Judd will continue to organize these for now and hope to create a recreational men's league after COVID. For The Signal, I'm Ilyas Kurbanov. Warming up and stretching are important aspects to a training for anyone before the start of a training session. Most people have their own routine to warm up their muscles, like skipping. But most common is stretching. This is the pigeon position. There is also reaching out to your toes to stretch your hamstrings and squats to stretch and activate your hips. This resistant band is like our muscles. If you stuck it in a freezer, it might crack. Keeping it warm and stretching it regularly makes it more flexible. For us, that means less chance of injury. Over time, if you ignore stretching, your body will become stiff, sort of like this stick, and eventually, it can break. And that is why it is important to stretch.
That fitness tip was part of our first assignment of the term, to make what we call a social media style explainer video. And it's probably no surprise that most of us got thinking about the pandemic and ways of getting through it.
When she was still in post-holiday isolation, Talia went looking for advice on the best ways to cope.
I came across something early on in the first lockdown in the spring that was very helpful for me, and it was just an image of a Post-it note that said quarantine questions, and it's really helpful. It was, how am I connecting with another person today? What expectations of normal am I letting go of today? How am I moving my body today? And those were really helpful for me.
Most students are feeling the stress of 10 months living in a pandemic. Zara Khan introduces us to someone who found a new hobby to lighten the load.
I always wanted to sketch, but I never got a chance to do so. But during this pandemic, I had a lot of free time, and I decided to do sketching. And while I was doing my stuff, I realized that it took my mind off of everything happening around the world, and it helped me relax and take my stress away.
If drawing is not for you, you can always curl up with a book. And now is a good time to check out the annual reading lists. Hollie Uffindell got the story from the people who really know their books, librarians.
If you're looking to have a really meaningful reading experience that will make you feel something, connect with your inner child, and kind of question the whole meaning of the world, then this is the book for you. It might remind you of things that you've gone through in your own life. It's super relatable, whether you're from Ireland, whether you're gay, whether you are a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Open your mind, go into this book knowing that it's going to challenge the way you think about things. But if you have ever lost someone and you're seeking a connection with them, this book will give you a little bit of a reminder that they might still be with you.
And before we go, Hollie Uffindell has one more fun fact. She was wondering how they get the sound to stick to vinyl records. So she dug into the grooves for the answer.
Physical media like cassette tapes and CDs have faded from popularity to obscurity over time, yet vinyl records haven't spun out of fashion. Although we still know what a vinyl record is, I'm guessing that most of us who listen to them have no idea how they work, and neither did I. Audio engineer Lloyd Smith says that the groove, or the long, narrow, spiraling cut on the surface of a record, is like a trench in the ground. At the bottom of this trench, there are lots of pebbles.
This trench, with all these little stones and all these little grooves and all these little cuts and so on and so forth, will translate very easily into the record cartridge, which holds this little needle, and this little needle will vibrate simultaneously, and that's where you get the sound from.
Basically, the pebbles in the trench, or the tiny cuts in a record's grooves, are what cause the needle to vibrate. Once the needle hears the sound, so does the cartridge around it. The two vibrate together, sending the information to the turntable's preamplifier. From here, the music comes through whatever speaker you're using. So next time you listen to a vinyl record, picture those sounds as tiny pebbles at the bottom of a lengthy trench.
So that's it for this week. We're just getting started. And we'll have more to come in the weeks to come.
In the meantime, be sure to check out more local news from our colleagues on our website at signalhfx.ca and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at signalhfx. I'm Ilyas Kurbanov.
And I'm Talia Meade. Thanks for watching and have a good weekend.